All right, everybody, welcome back. It is Friday. Welcome back to the Merc channel. If you're new here, this is the channel where I do hot rod stuff, general mayhem, just whatever, whatever I feel like. I got a separate playlist started, and this is going to be episode 2 of that playlist. And the playlist is called Mental Health Death Wobble because June is National Men's Mental Health Month. And I feel like this is a subject that gets passed over because there's a stigma attached to it. Because men are raised in our society in America to not have feelings and not talk about things and not show emotion and just suck it up and just grit it out and just keep going. And I think that's bullshit. So today's video is going to come with a disclaimer. If you are triggered by offensive language, then you're probably going to want to tune out right now because I'm going to go on a bit of a rant today. But it's going to be something I think needs to be said. So, welcome back. It's Friday. The weather's kind of weird. We got a kind of weird sky the last few days because there's a Canadian wildfire burning, and all the smoke is wafting clear down into northern Indiana where I live. And so our skies have been hazy. The air quality is garbage. They have air quality warnings out all around where I live. So the weather's just weird. We had 3.25 inches of rain night before last. So my backyard shed project is on hold for a couple days because the backyard's a swamp. But as you can see, the garage is still the normal mess it always is. I have the tailgate for the Ford on the stand, getting ready to go into high build primer today. I'll get that knocked out. I might even get to work on the 53 a little bit because I can't really do much outside. I spent all day Wednesday doing bakery stuff for the new business. So today's just kind of freestyle Friday. The weekend's going to be busy, but it's going to be cool because we got some fun stuff going on. But I just wanted to show you the garage. The big accomplishment this week for me was I got the deck finished up, painted, the blades balanced, sharpened, back on deck, back on the John Deere. It's ready to start mowing again. So I can help my nephew mow the lagoons, which will cut the time in about half of what he spends doing that. But anyway, I'm going to flip you guys around and let's tear into today's episode. Okay, I put up a series of still shots at the beginning of this video before the opening credits, and these were things that were posted on the local county here, Huntington County, where I live. It was posted on their emergency management Facebook page, and I thought it was kind of fitting that they had it listed under that because normally that page is reserved for if there's a flood or some kind of natural disaster here in town or whatever. They post updates and instructions and things that go along with that kind of thing. But the fact that they posted a bunch of slides about men's mental health really struck me because I thought it is actually not just a county emergency where I live, it's a national emergency. Because if you looked at the slides for more than a second, you saw the statistics of how many men take their own lives. We've heard over and over that 22 veterans a day take their own life. Well, that's just in the veteran population. There's a huge contingent of civilian men that are falling victim to the same demons, and we have got to stop this. There's got to be some kind of solutions available for this. So one of the things that has helped me tremendously with my mental health, because I'm like most guys, I've had to deal with a lot of issues. I've had some pretty serious mental trauma the last few years. We'll go into details in another episode, but suffice it to say that from 2021 until 23 those were probably the 21, 22, 23, probably some of the worst 3 years of my life in terms of loss. So I wanted to kind of go off on a different tangent than that today because one of the biggest things I've learned over the years, I'm 58 and a half, and I'm still learning something new every day. But one of the biggest things I'd learned in life, I didn't learn until I was probably, I'll say 52, 53, somewhere in there. It's been about 5 or 6 years ago that this really hit home. And this is where the disclaimer for language is going to come in, because here's how I feel about this. I was, as a child, never told I was good enough. I was an idiot. I was talked down to. I was belittled constantly, by my father. And it didn't matter what I did, it was never going to be good enough, because I had two older step siblings who they resented me from the day I was born, because I was going to take away some of their thunder. And I just it didn't matter what. I just wasn't going to be as good as the other two. And I thought, you know what, that's fine. But I spent my whole life after that trying to please other people. I picked probably the worst people I could have ever chosen to date or marry, whatever, because I thought, well, maybe if I can fix these broken people, it'll fix me. And that was a huge mistake. And I spent my whole life trying to worry about what other people thought of me. What was my impression on, other people? Did they like me? Was I popular? 'Cause I wasn't popular in high school. I wasn't one of the upper rich kids. Wasn't a jock. Didn't fit into any clique. So I spent my whole life trying to please others, and I have had nothing but disappointment every time I turned around doing that. And it finally hit me when I was in my early 50s. I just had an epiphany one day. I was like, you know what? If people don't like me the way I am, fuck them. If they don't like what I'm doing in life, fuck them. They're not paying my bills. They're not getting up every morning and looking at the world through my eyes, having seen what I've seen and been through what I've been through. So if they don't like the way I'm doing something, they can piss off. They can go, hang out with somebody else. I've had people, whether it was spouses, whether it was, quote, best friends. I've had clients, and I know if you're a guy and you own your own business, you've run into people like this, that it doesn't matter what you do to try and make them happy. They're still going to piss in your Wheaties, because there's just no fucking making them happy, period. And I've had two customers like that at my hot rod shop out of the, probably 100 I dealt with. And I've had relationships where people will go behind your back and, talk shit about you all the time, but they won't say anything to your face because, they don't want a confrontation. So I finally just got to the point where I had been in a situation for 12 years, and I had had enough. I had just simply had enough. I knew I could see the writing on the wall. I knew where everything was headed. And I was just up to my ass in it. And I just had enough. So I walked away, because I knew for my own mental health, that was just the best policy, was just get the fuck out of the situation. And I did. And instantly, of course, we have the wonders of the internet now. So it's not go blab to the next door neighbor that you're unhappy. It's get on the internet and blab to everybody, that you're unhappy. And I didn't even know this was going on, but I accidentally found out that this person was just badmouthing me all over the internet. And I thought, you're too fucking chicken to say something in my face. And if you didn't like the way things are going, you had 12 years to stand up and say something about it, and you never did. You act like everything was fucking perfectly normal. But then the minute I decided I've had enough, now I'm the bad guy, And I'm like, you know what? I was so pissed off when I found this out, that I was so mad that people can weaponize social media, just to bend everybody's ear, rather than, confront a problem head on, or confront a situation you don't like, in person. You're just going to blab to the internet. I thought, you know what? Fuck them. I'll go into fucking asylum. And I basically just took a break from the internet for like a year. And let me tell you, it was the best fucking thing I ever did. I had a Facebook page with like 1,000 friends. Most of them knew me personally, either from racing, from the shop, from, whatever, one of my hobbies. A lot of them had never met me in person, but I had people that were customers um, that actually flew in from other countries to hang out and go to my shop and meet me in person and hang out. Um, we used to sell DVDs. I used to make DVDs on how to paint cars, and we sold them all over the world. And I actually had customers that bought the DVD that knew me through a forum that flew from England to Florida to come visit me in my shop and hang out. And they were the nicest people. They were so cool. We had a blast. And I had tons of people like that that I, interacted with in my life. But then you always got one or two that are just assholes. And I was so pissed off over the whole thing with the internet that I'm like, you know what? Fuck them. If I'm going to be, the best thing since sliced bread on Monday, and then Tuesday I'm the fucking Antichrist, because I decided I'd had enough, then I'll just reinvent myself. So I did. I opened another Facebook page and I named myself Antichrist. And if you read it fast, or if you run it all together, it's Antichrist. Because basically that's how I was being portrayed. And I thought, fuck them. People that were supposed to have been my friends that had known me for years should have known better than to just assume and take everything at face value that they heard. Never even came to me for my side of the story, just automatically, just threw me under the bus. And I'm like, fuck you. You have no idea what's really going on. I have not blabbed my story all over the internet, like this other person. So I just fuck them. People that know me well and see me every day know my character. They know what I'm like. And I learned the big difference between reputation and character. Reputation is simply what other people think of you. Character is who you really are. You know, People say the true test of a man is to see what he does when nobody's looking. So I thought, well, I don't need the internet because I grew up in an era where there was no internet. And I survived. I functioned. I had friends. I did things. I got along just fine without fucking Facebook and the internets and all that bullshit. So that's what I did. I spent a year rebuilding my life, getting myself in check. Um, I tried to help my kids the best I could, to get them out into the world and functioning like they should. Excuse me. And then I took some time to actually focus on me. And I hadn't done that forever. Um, I had spent most of my adult life trying to find a way to hide everything that was going wrong in life. And I didn't turn to drugs. I didn't drink. I wasn't an alcoholic. I didn't do drugs or any of that bullshit. I buried myself in my hobby, whatever it was at the time. I've been a model aircraft pilot. My dad was. He started me in it when I was a kid. I really wasn't interested that much as a kid. As an adult, I developed an interest in it over the years, and I dabbled. By the time I turned 40, I started getting serious in it. By the time I was 50, I was a second generation president of the local club. Um, I flew 600 class helicopters. I could do 3D with planes and helicopters. There wasn't much I couldn't do with RC because that was my escape. I buried myself in that hobby and I was good at it. Um, I had a series of small strokes over the last couple of years. And so I finally put the hobby down because I tore up a $2,500 helicopter and I said, okay, I have a backup, but I'm not going to go destroy it just because I want to try and keep flying. Because my hand-eye coordination was getting really bad. And so I sold everything. I have one drone left and my crawler that's sitting behind me here. And that's it. But I've always been a drag race fan. I've always been a car guy. So I kept that hobby. And I've immersed myself in it. Since about 2006, I started learning everything I could learn about NHRA rule books, IHRA, chassis building, engines, suspension. I already had at that time, a 20 some year background in paint and body. So I wanted to get good at welding so I could do sheet metal fab. I learned all that and I did a lot of restoration stuff. I probably know I'd say I probably know as much as most anybody about the F body GM bodies, the Camaros, Firebirds, especially second gens. I've done a ton of them, rotisserie builds, frame off shit, which they don't have a full frame anyway. But um, I've done cages, all kinds of stuff. But I was always trying to please everybody, and it was just dragging me down. It was running me ragged. And I finally one day I just said, you know what? Fuck these people. If they don't like me for who I am, they can go away. Um, I spent most of my childhood alone. I was an only child. The closest relative was my sister, who was 14 years older than me, and she was my closest friend the whole time I was growing up. My sister and I were very close. Unfortunately, she passed away in 2016. But I've been able to make do by myself and entertain myself my whole life. As a kid, I didn't have anybody to play with. Very few friends. I count on one hand the number of people from grade school that I still keep in contact with. So I thought I can live without the internet, and I can live without trying to appease people online. So that's what I did. And let me tell you, it's been the best thing ever. When you stop giving a fuck about what other people think of you, because let's face it, you can't change people's mind. If they have a preset opinion, you're not going to change it. You can try, you can beat yourself into the ground trying to make somebody like you or make them understand your side of things or your point of view. And if they don't want to hear it, you're spinning your wheels in the mud. You are not going to get anywhere. So why waste the effort? Why waste your time? Why waste your mental energy on shit that really, let's face it, doesn't matter? Um, you you're the one that gets up in the morning, puts your pants on, goes to work, and you know in your heart that if you go to work and you put out 100% every day at your job and you're good at what you do, that's really all that matters. If you come home and you have a family and you take care of your family, that's all that matters. Um, if you have kids and you try to be the best parent you can for your kids, that's really all that matters. None of this popularity contest bullshit matters. I remember high school. This is my 40th anniversary coming up next month, my 40th class reunion from high school. And hell, probably, I can probably count on both hands the number of people that I know from my class of like 600. I can probably count on both hands, and I have change left, the number of people that I still speak to out of those 600. I wasn't a popular kid in school. You know, I probably won't be popular at the reunion. I don't give a shit. I'm going because my wife wants to go, and I thought, well, it might be humorous because I know what my impression is probably going to be, and I've almost put money on it. The girls that wouldn't give you the time of day in high school, that were the pretty ones, the skinny ones, the ones that thought they had it going on, probably now, weigh 300 pounds and got 6 kids stringing along behind them, have been divorced 8 times, and, living in a trailer somewhere. So, you know, what do I give a shit, what they've done or haven't done with their life? I'm content. Um, I'm in good with the locals here. I'm friends with the mayor. Um, I've been on the Heritage Days, which is our big festival here. I've been on the steering committee now for like 4 years, 5 years. I actually took this year off because of my health, but I've done a lot of stuff for the community in my life, and I've done a lot of stuff for charity in my life. And I've got a wife that loves me, and I would do anything for her, and we get along like peas and carrots. So to me, that's all that matters. I have a few close friends that have known me for quite a while, and that's all that matters. I have a couple family members left. Most of my family's died off. I mean, my parents been gone for what, 30 years. I get along fine, and I live on a small street, not a cul-de-sac, but just a small street. It's only like 10 houses total on my street, but everybody on the block knows me. Everybody likes me. We get along. We have a lot of fun. And that's all I need. I don't give a shit if I'm popular on Facebook. I don't give a shit if my YouTube videos get 1 view or 1 million. I do this playlist, these mental health videos, I'm doing to try and help somebody. If somebody out there gets anything out of these videos and it changes one person's life for the better, even the smallest bit, I am completely grateful for having had the opportunity to do that. Um, I've spent a lot of my life in service, between the military, being a lifeguard, being a paramedic. Um, I volunteered at the VA hospital. I've always done things to try and help others. I always wanted to believe in a cause bigger than myself. And I feel these videos are kind of a continuation of that because um, I have been a personal survivor of having had a family member commit suicide. Long story short, I lost my youngest daughter. And there were warning signs that I feel I should have seen. And I don't know that I could have changed the outcome or not. I'll never know because it's too late now. But I know, I just know that if I can help one person out there not have to have their family go through what I went through and what Michelle went through, when we lost Allison, and that that was devastating. And there was always the backlash from the ex-wife. There was all this bullshit after the fact, and I let it eat at me, and I thought, fuck those people. They have no idea what my side of the story is. They have no idea what happens here on my street, on my piece of property, you know. So I don't give a shit. Let them think what they want. Um, the fact is, I did everything I could as a parent with what opportunity I had with the kids, which wasn't a lot, with what time I had to spend with them, what resources I had. Um, I did what I felt was the best job I could. And that's, at the end of the day, that's all I can take with me to my grave is that I tried my best. And if you're a guy and you're trying your best at whatever, whether it's your job, your relationship, your hobby, if you're doing the best you can, fuck everybody else. you know um, Take care of yourself first, because at the end of the day, when you put your head down on your pillow at night, it's just you and your thoughts. And if you spend time and effort and energy mentally worrying about what the neighbor thinks or what your coworkers think or what your buddies think, you're wasting valuable energy that you could be spending on yourself. Um, Whether it's investing in your hobby or it's learning a new skill or doing something on your bucket list that you've been wanting to do. Um, I've wanted to I've wanted to build a drag and drive rat rod for years. And I started one back in about 12, 13, I think it was 2013. And I got it mostly built and I ended up selling it because I moved across the state of Florida. And I thought, well, I can always build another one. Well, now I'm building another one. And that's that's my thing. And I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to build it the way I want. And there's going to be people who go, well, you could have done this or you should have done that, or why did you do this, or why did you? Well, fuck you. I didn't build it for you. I built it for me. You know, um, I drive a piece of shit clapped out '88 Chevy S10 with a quote custom paint job I did on it. It's a turd. I mean, it ain't gonna set any NHRA records. But it's fun to drive. I have a ball with it. It does burnouts for days. It's got a decent stereo in it. Um, it's fun. It turns heads. It's weird because I look at it as a shit box. It's the shit box. It's even got a shitbox logo on the tailgate, but it gets looks and it's fun to drive. And I'm like, well, if you like it, cool. If you don't, fuck you. It's my truck. And that's how I am with this rat rod I'm building. It's what I want. And if you don't like it, go look at somebody else's car. Go build your own shit. The thing that always got me was armchair quarterbacks. I could, and I've seen this happen, I could go online and post a picture of something I did. Say it was something I painted, a car or whatever. And you'd get 50 people jump in the comments if it was on Facebook, or they would post if it was on a message board. Oh, well, you should have done this, or you could have done that, or why did you do this, or well, that's stupid. Why'd you do this? And I would just read the comments and think to myself, how many of these have you painted, motherfucker? I mean, how many cars have you painted? How many things have you done? Where's your shit at? I'd build a car. I'd build a hot rod for somebody, or a drag car, and we get it done, and they'd be like, well, why didn't you do this? Well, why didn't you do that? Well, that was dumb. You should have done this. Well, where's your shit at? You're fucking armchair quarterback. You're going to Monday morning quarterback me on what I do. I'm in the fucking shop paying the rent on the building and buying the equipment and paying the employees and doing the work. Where the fuck are you at? What are you, fucking working at Starbucks? You're going to tell me how to do my job? Where's your shit? Fuck you. And when I quit giving a shit about people like that, let me tell you, that's a dangerous level of freedom. Because when you stop giving a shit what people think, you can do anything. I got my 53, and I always wanted a rat rod truck. So I said, I'm going to build one from the ground up. So I bought basically a truck, and it was a 1.5 ton, 53 GMC. All I wanted was a cab. So pulled the cab off, got rid of the rest of it. Didn't have a bed anyway, just had the front clip. So got rid of everything, and first thing was chop the top, because I love chop tops. So I took 5 inches out of it, and people were like, oh, that's a lot of chop. Hope you know how to put it back together. Well, yeah, it's not the first one I've done. I mean, I was cutting fucking convertible tops back in the 80s, and you could take it off and put it back on. It was made that way. So I took 5 inches out of the roof. Well, then I got to looking at it when I started kind of setting it up to go back together, and I thought, fuck it, I'm going to take another 3 out of it. And I looked at it and I thought, wow, now it just got 5, it looks like it's 5 acres wide. It's huge now. So I thought, well, we need to take 8 inches out of the center of it. And then you look at the doors and you're like, man, these fucking doors are huge. Just because they're just tall. And I thought, well, we need to take 8 inches out of the doors, which is what I'm going to do. So I brainstormed with my best friend, and we come up with an idea to build a jig. And basically it attaches to the truck, lets us cut 8 inches out of the center of it and slide it back together. And everything will line up perfectly. And I just got to stitch it back together. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to call it 888s because we're taking 8 out of the roof, 8 out of the doors as a section, and then we're narrowing it 8 inches. And it'll go on a double Z'd 2x4 box frame with a Model T style front end. And just picked up a 396 crank yesterday and a set of rods. So it's going to have a 427 in it. It'll be tunnel rammed for now. Eventually it'll get a blower. And everybody's going to say, well, why didn't you put a turbo LS in it? Well, I got an LS. I've had a couple of them. But I don't want another turbo LS. Everybody and their fucking mom's got a turbo LS. I want to do something cool. I want a blown big block. I like I know you can tune the surge out of a blower, but I like the blower surge. I like just something that just sounds rowdy, I mean, I have friends that have 8.5 second S10s with turbos in them and 5.3s, and they don't, when they pull up, they don't sound rowdy. I want something that fucking sounds rowdy, whether it's faster than the S10 guys or not, I don't care. Fuck them. This is my truck. It's what I'm building. And that's the attitude you got to have. You got to do life do you. You do you. And if people don't like that, if you're not hurting anybody or you're not hurting animals, and you're not doing anything illegal, and I'm not saying, if you do a burnout, on a country road, I'm not saying that's, you should go to hell for that. But I'm just saying if you're not, committing crimes and getting into trouble and just being a bad person, if you're not doing any of that stuff, then good for you. Do you, do what makes you happy. And fuck all the haters. Haters are what fuel me now. They used to drive me up the wall. People would not agree with what I did, and man, I'd get hurt. It would really deeply hurt my feelings. And I thought, why am I wasting my good mental energy on these people? It doesn't matter what I do, they're not going to like it anyway, so fuck them. Let them think what they want. Let them do what they want. I don't give a shit. That's on them. So that's the takeaway here. We'll do another one next week. We'll go into a different subject then. But for this week, I think what my main point is that you've got to focus on you. If you're a guy and you're even remotely worried about, what the neighbor or your coworkers or, if everybody's wearing Nikes and you decide you want to wear Adidas, and they don't like, oh, fuck them. It's your feet, your shoes, pick what you want. I wear Vans. I've always wore Vans since high school. I was wearing Vans before Vans were cool. And I still have a set. I still wear them. I wore them yesterday. But just, fuck everybody else. Fuck the haters, especially. People will hate on you. I don't care if you're the Pope. They're going to hate on you, I see some of the biggest engine builders in the country that build some of the fastest street legal cars in the country. They get hate all the time, especially on like their YouTube or, on their social media. People, oh, that's stupid. Fuck you. Where's your shit? Where's your fucking sick week trophy? Where's your whatever, So don't let other people's opinions of you influence you. You got to look at it just, you got to let it roll off you like a duck, like water off a duck's back, they say. People don't like it, piss on them. Let them go do their own thing. You do you, you take care of you, the rest will fall into place, Get up every morning, take on your day, give it 100%, and go to bed at night knowing you've done the best you can with what you have. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. We don't, whatever people like or don't like or think or don't think, that's them. Fuck them. Take care of yourself. So till next week, do something good for yourself. Enjoy your weekend. I got a busy weekend, but it's going to be fun. And then we're tearing back into it Monday. I'm hoping the weather gets so I can get this, get this shed stuff going. Hoping maybe get a little bit of work done on the hot rod this weekend. We'll see. Like I said, I spent yesterday. I went and picked up engine parts, so I'm happy I got something accomplished. But anyway, we'll see you guys next week. Hopefully we'll get a hot rod video in between now and next Friday. If not, we'll see you guys next Friday for the next installment. It'll be episode 3 of the Mental Health Death Wobble. Until then, enjoy your weekend. Have a good week. Take care of yourself.